Isn't the point of traveling to get away from it all? To feel the best you've ever felt? Then maybe you should check out Aruba. You'll spend your time relaxing on cool, white, sandy beaches and floating in healing blue water. You'll meet locals brimming with gratitude for an island that redefines what a paradise can be. When your trip comes to an end, you won't need another vacation because you just had the vacation. That's the Aruba effect. Plan your trip at Aruba.com.
Hello, hello. Welcome back to Peak Northwest, an outdoors and travel podcast by the Oregonian and Oregon Live, dedicated to the adventure and exploration of our beautiful Pacific Northwest. I'm Jamie Hale.
And I'm Vickie Connor. Together, we take you to some of the most beautiful and interesting destinations in our region, discussing where to go, what to do, and places to see. And today, in honor of 4th of July, we're engaging in a classic Pacific Northwest pastime, talking about our favorite uncrowded hikes for the holiday weekend.
Yeah, Vickie, I feel like this is something people usually do in hushed tones or like in group chats for fear of like revealing their precious secret spots. But we're not gatekeepers here on Peak Northwest. We're here to pull back the curtain on at least a few of these places, giving you all some places that will hopefully not be too crowded this holiday weekend.
Oh, man. Let the controversy begin. We are going to ruffle some feathers.
Look, everyone relax. There's so many places. I feel like, even if any of these 5 places we're going to mention today are like your spot you go to, there's another one. And if people go to that one, there's another one. There's like hundreds and thousands of places you can go in the Pacific Northwest. Like there's so many little places to go. They're just not all spectacular. So before we get into these 5 places, I feel like there's some general rules of thumb when thinking about, trying to avoid crowds on a holiday weekend, right? So first of all, every waterway is going to be crowded. If it's a riverside beach, if it's a place to float, to kayak, if it's the ocean, if there's water and it's Memorial Day, 4th of July, Labor Day, it's going to be crowded, period. So if you don't want to have crowds, then don't go to those places. It's that easy. The second rule of thumb is that busy places that are busy normally, are going to be busy on a holiday weekend. Silver Falls, Fort Stevens, Smith Rock, all of these places that are like the go-to state parks, the marquee places, people are going to be there on these holiday weekends. Like, so if you don't want to go, you don't want there to be busyness, don't go to a busy place, right? Easy. And the third rule of thumb is that Sugar Pine Drive-In in Troutdale will be crowded. Don't go to Sugar Pine Drive-In on a holiday weekend. Everyone thinks it's a great idea because it's perfect for our 4th of July weekend. Get some like a cool ice cream sundae or a sandwich, sit down by the river. There's going to be 100 people there. You're going to stand in line for an hour. Just don't do it.
Have you experienced this, Jamie, firsthand?
I've gone on non-holiday weekends and it's been crazy. I've stood in line for like 40 minutes when the line like wraps around outside and around the building on just like a Saturday. A regular Saturday in like September. Yeah. So it's going to be a zoo. Just don't even try it. Don't even try it.
I do think of Sugar Pine as like Americana, outdoors. You got your ice cream. That's like America.
Oh, yeah. But like so precious and bougie too. Like it's like an ice cream with like, fondant, like mushrooms on there and like little bits of honeycomb and like lavender syrup and stuff.
Yeah. It's
nice. It's so good. That's the thing. I would go to Sugar Pine on the regular if it wasn't so crowded, but it always is. Go on a weekday. If you want to check it out, go on a weekday.
All right. Well, we said where to not go now. If you're looking for somewhere to go, where should we start?
Yeah, well, I do want to start real quick with a caveat, and that is just because we're saying these are typically uncrowded places, I have no way of guaranteeing that they're going to be uncrowded. So if you show up and there's a bunch of people, please don't get mad at me. These are just places that I have gone to, or like, I know people who have gone to historically as places that are less crowded. You might find a crowd. I don't know. I can't read the future. And maybe everyone listening to this will go to these places and it'll be packed. But
Jamie, you're trying to protect your inbox right now.
Oh my gosh, it's true. But we do have 5 spots. These are some of my like go-to places if I want to just get away from it and still have a really, really nice experience. So like, yeah, you could go to like any old little, tiny forested hike where it's in the wilderness and there's no one there, and you walk through the woods for a mile and it's fine. You could do that. There's a lot of places like that. But I like to give some ideas for places that are still spectacular, still beautiful, where you can see a lot without having to worry about fighting everyone for a parking spot.
Yeah, for sure. What's number 1 on our list here?
My first go-to spot, really located just near Sugar Pine, is Oxbow Regional Park. I've talked about it a lot here in the pod. I love this place. It is a riverside park. So the caveat is if you're trying to just go to the river, you might find a lot of people there. But there's a really, really, really nice hike through an old forest there that you can, I feel like I rarely see anyone there. I've been there on beautiful summer weekends. I've been there, on weekdays. I've been there all kinds of times, and I rarely see anyone else on this hike. But if you park in any of the little parking areas throughout Oxbow, and instead of going down to the river, you just go up towards the forest, you can hike for miles through this beautiful forest. See some there's a lot of mushrooms and big ferns and big tall trees. And you can hike up to this little sort of plateau overlooking the river. There's a little loop hike at the top you can do. I don't know exactly how many miles this is, because this is like one of those, like, you take a piece of Oxbow and hike it at a time. And I never clock it, because it's just one of my go-to places just to do walking in the woods. But it's, a few miles of pretty easy hiking. It's really gorgeous. It's family friendly. And if you're not parking by the river, if you can find a parking spot off that, then you can, when you're done hiking to the woods, you can walk down to the river and splash a little bit, cool down and enjoy some views, and then go back home.
So nice. Yeah, I love that you can just kind of bookend your hike with some time at the water. And that this is such a family friendly and kind of chill area as well. So very nice.
It's a place we see a lot of people doing fishing. In the off season, especially when I'm there in the wintertime, it's like me and everyone fishing, and that's about it. And in the summertime, you see a lot of people going down by the river and hanging out there. It's like a low key river hangout spot. A lot of people go to Rooster Rock, or a lot of people go to, other parts of the Sandy River. This is just it's a really, really nice place. And there's so much parking there that you can find a place to sort of tuck in usually. Oh. So if the first parking lot's full, you can just keep going until you find some place.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. What's next?
Lyall Cherry Orchard is next on my list. We had some, Sadie's brother and his girlfriend were in town for Memorial Day weekend, and they said, we want to go to the Gorge on Memorial Day weekend. And I said, yikes, it's going to be packed. They said, where can we go that's not crowded in the Gorge for a holiday weekend? And I said, try the Lyall Cherry Orchard. It's a bit of a far drive. It's out in Lyall on the Washington side of the Gorge. But every time I go to the Cherry Orchard, there's no one there. And it's an incredible hike. The wildflowers there earlier in the season are really, really nice. There's some incredible views. It straddles that desert part of Oregon with the, Willamette Valley part of Oregon. So it's really in that sort of green into brown transitionary place. So you get the nice lush trees, but you also get the rattlesnakes, and you get, there's definitely a lot of poison oak / poison ivy there. There are ticks. Like I said, there are snakes. There's a lot of dangers. And then people see that and they're like, no, thanks. I'm going to avoid that. But the views are honestly as good, if not better, than most places you go in the Gorge. Really, really spectacular. And you can do a lot of hiking up there for about 6.5 miles up and back. You can hike to the top, loop around, see some good scenery, and come back down. It's really, really spectacular. I'd say it's like a moderate hike. So not super easy, but not the hardest. There's certainly a lot of other harder hikes in the gorge. And they went there on Memorial Day weekend. They said, "No, there's nobody there. Had the place to ourselves."
Wow.
So incredible. I'll
That's
drive
so
a little
good.
farther and you can find it.
Yeah. I remember us talking about this one in one of our past like wildflower roundup hikes. And the first mention of the rattlesnake, I was like, I don't know. They really freaked me out, especially because I used to live somewhere where they're quite common. So, but for the lack of crowds, got to risk it.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I've been there, 3 or 4 times. I've seen a rattlesnake there once. And, I was walking on the trail. I saw it. I heard it. I stopped.
Stay away.
I gave it time to slither away. It slithered away. I kept going. And that's all you need to do. Don't worry about it. Don't go sticking your hands in any rocks or anything. My God. But just mind your own business and keep your distance and you'll be fine. That's how it goes.
Be careful if you are bringing a dog here.
Gosh, yeah. Okay, so for folks who want to do Mount Hood, obviously a big destination in the summertime, a lot of great trails open up. But the one that I typically go to, but if I'm trying to get away from crowds, is Zigzag Mountain West. So not on like the slopes of Mount Hood proper, but it has some really, really good views of Mount Hood. And it's a bit of a tough hike, but really rewarding. So Zigzag Mountain, if you're driving in from Portland along 26, when you get to the town of like Rhododendron, there's like a Zigzag Ranger station on your right. And instead of continuing on up towards the ski areas and all that, you just turn left at the Zigzag Ranger station and you can drive just a couple minutes into the woods there. And there's a trailhead that leads you up the side of Zigzag Mountain, which is just one of these, foothills of Mount Hood. And it's, like I said, a bit of a tough hike. It's like 9.5 miles round trip up and back. But the end of it is like just a really, really good view of Mount Hood. So worth it. And if you go at the right time of year when the rhododendrons are blooming, all these like wild rhododendrons on the side of the trail are incredible. And usually I want to say around, June, end of June or so, I think is when they tend to typically bloom at that elevation. So you can really luck out and see some really beautiful scenery. I have seen like maybe a person or two on this trail when I've done it before. Granted, I usually have done it on weekdays, but I've sent people to this trail when they're looking to hike without crowds, and they have reported back they have not seen very many people up there.
Oh, so good. The fact any trail where you can have like a nice view of Mount Hood, plus it's not super heavily trafficked, that's a good combo.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And I should say, this is like a place where you can do some really good backpacking also. You can get into Paradise Park from there. You could get, to the Timberline Trail from there. Like you can really access the backpacking trails of Mount Hood from Zigzag West. And it's like, it's a tough way to begin doing a long trip. I had a colleague who was looking for a backpacking trip and I sent him there and he said that was a really hard way to start backpacking. Uphill for 4 miles. But it takes you up there. And then once you're up there, it's a lot of solitude. So, would recommend if you want to do a day hike or if you want to do some low key backpacking up there in Mount Hood.
Well, cool. We've already done 3. Next up, Manhattan Beach.
Manhattan Beach. This is like, okay, so the coast is crazy on the 4th of July. We know this. Holiday weekend, a hot weekend. If there's a heat wave in the valley, the coast is insane. I've dome that I think it was in the Heat Dome. I was driving from the North Coast to the South Coast, and every single beach pullout was packed. There was like nowhere to park at any of them. I wasn't trying to, I was just trying to drive, but like that's something I noticed. But so if you're going to try to get to a beach, I feel like this is one that's worth a shot. I can't guarantee it's going to be empty, but this is one that always shows up on the list of least visited state parks in Oregon. Mm-hmm. It's like the least visited beach, basically, state park beach. It's just north of Rockaway Beach. So it's between Rockaway Beach and Manzanita. And I am not totally clear on why no one goes here. I mean, part of it might be it's just like, you've got Manzanita right there and you've got Rockaway Beach right there. It's kind of in no man's land. But last time I went here, if you're driving on 101, there's like a sign for it and you turn left, and immediately every time I try to go to Manhattan Beach, I miss it. Like you turn left and then you're somewhere else. And all of a sudden you're like, wait, where's the beach? And you just end up like in this like little neighborhood where I think people probably end up just parking. But it's like this little sign that you can really easily miss that points you to this little parking area. That can fit like, I don't know, probably 30 cars or something. But it's a nice little beach. Manhattan Beach is perfectly fine. It's perfectly beautiful. If you're trying to go to the beach and you can't find anywhere to go, give it a shot. I think this is one that's definitely worth checking out if you really need somewhere to go.
And what's the beach itself like?
It's just like beach. It's nothing really special.
No, like rocky areas, or it's just like flat beach, or
sandy beach. It is sandy Oregon coast beach. You can sort of see the arch rock of Rockaway Beach in the distance. If you walk a little farther north, you get to the Nehalem River mouth, the jetty there. Mm-hmm. So there's some jetty opportunity. There's, a lot of beach you could walk if the tide is out. But it's just like good old fashioned sandy beach. So if that's what you're looking for, they've got it there.
This sounds nice if like, we have one of those really hot weekends on 4th of July where it's very rare that you can sit on a beach in Oregon and like feel like you're really tanning. But, but the fact that it's like so sandy, that sounds more like an East Coast beach to me.
Yeah. I feel like the coast is like always 58 degrees.
Yeah.
It's like always chilly. But if you're coming from like 120 degrees, then yeah, it sounds great.
All right. I think we have one more on our list here.
Yeah. Last spot. This is a place that if you want to go backpacking, you're desperate to just go backpacking. You want to, be able to throw your tent in your bag, walk somewhere and camp in the forest. And it's a last minute, everywhere's crowded. You don't have to worry about permits. A place I like to send people to is Drift Creek. This is not the Drift Creek where there's the waterfall in Lincoln City. It's not the same place, but it is on the coast. It is just outside of Yachats. So it's sort of in that Central Coast area. And it is just, you hike downhill a little ways. I think it's just about like 3.5 miles or so. You hike downhill through this like really lush forest and you get to Drift Creek. And along the creek, there are several pretty little forested campsites you can go to. And that's it. That's all there is to it.
Nice.
It's not, there's no waterfall. There's no big mountain views. It is just like down there. And this is great too. If you're talking about the heat wave, it is like forested. It's shaded. It's cool. It's damp. It's a great place to go if you want to cool off. Yeah. I went there in the spring once. It was back in 2020 when we all had furlough days. And I went there for like, a couple of nights. And it was so cold. It was like, nice in Portland, but like it was freezing in Drift Creek. So I really like did not pack well enough. And I just hung out there for a couple of days and just, let time sort of slip away and try not to think about COVID and had a nice time. No one else there. I didn't see a single person there for like those, 2.5 days.
Oh my gosh. I took a PTO day off the day after 4th of July to like make it a nice long weekend. And originally I had plans with one of my friends who's now going somewhere else and, trying to figure out what to do. I would like to do a backpacking trip. I think maybe something a little bit longer would be nice. We'll see where I end up.
That Zigzag Mountain, again, if you can get through that initial climb, to give you like the elevation gain, we're talking like, 3,600 feet or so. It's a stiff hike, but you can get so deep in there. there's a bunch of like some lakes you can camp by. It might be a little bit buggy at this point. Anywhere you backpack in the mountains this time of year, you're going to have mosquitoes. So, but that might be a good one, or at least to consider.
Could be. I'm the type of person who I find almost more peace in having, a few other people around, not huge crowds, but I'm like, okay, if something crazy happens, there's someone I could like flag down and be like, hey, help me or whatever. But yeah, I feel like with any of these, there's bound to be another human somewhere nearby on the 4th of July weekend.
Totally. And I there is something to say, like you said, about having people nearby. When I did that Drift Creek backpacking trip by myself for 2 nights, it was a little too much. By the second night, I was like going a little crazy. Just like not having any like sense of like reality or like people around to sort of like ground me. It was a little like sort of getting like lost in that like, the wildness or the chaos of nature.
Yeah.
Which is cool. And I think one of the reasons I was out there, but at the same time, I was like, boy, I would love to like speak to a person at this point.
I'm sure like this point in time, back in, 2020 or whatever, that was an additional factor as well.
Yeah, it was a choice. It was a strong choice in that moment. And I don't want to say I regret it, but I could have chosen something more that would have served me better in that moment.
Well, anywhere else, Jamie, or anything else you want to mention about these holiday weekend finds?
Don't be afraid to share your favorite uncrowded places with other people. I love this. We live in a community of people. These are public places. We should be publicly sharing them with everyone. And the more places we share, the less crowded everywhere it gets. That's the thing. So if you're, tired of crowds at popular places, help thin them out by sending people other spots. That's like literally like the ethos of my whole job is like, let's send people to everywhere. Yeah. There's no reason we need to like hold these places jealously for ourselves. We don't need to be Gollum with our hiking spots. Like relax, enjoy that sense of community, of offering these beautiful places to people who have not been there before, and try something new yourself. Don't just go to Silver Falls or don't just go to Sugar Pine. They're great. Let the 4th of July crowds have them this time around and go somewhere new. Go somewhere less crowded. Spread it out.
Love it. Preach it, Jamie. I love it. And thank you for these recommendations. I will be taking note of all of them. And next time I need somewhere to really get away, I'll keep these in mind.
Yeah, hit me up. All my friends do. I'll help you out. Well, folks, that will do it for today. Until next time, you can watch our videos on the Oregonians YouTube channel and view all of our travel and outdoors coverage on OregonLive.com/travel, as well as HereIsOregon.com.
Please leave us a rating or review if you enjoyed the show. And if you want to support this podcast, as well as our local journalism, please consider a subscription to Oregon Live. You can find details at OregonLive.com/pod support. Also, if you're a fan of the show and you're interested in potentially sponsoring it, you can get in touch with our marketing people at advertise@oregonian.com. This episode of the show is produced by me, Vickie Connor, alongside Jamie Hale.
Stay safe and happy travels, everyone. Until next time, we leave you with this 10 seconds of Zen.